Yesterday, on former President Trump's final day in office, he signed an executive order that negated an order he signed 4 years ago, which prevented appointees from any lobbying related to their agency for the term of 5 years. In addition, there was also supposed to be a lifetime ban on lobbying for a foreign government. This was part of Trump's campaign promise to drain the swamp, but I guess it was a little bit more of a catch and release program because he overturned it last night. Ironically, Donald Trump succeeded in draining the swamp, but it was only this morning when he departed Washington for the last time.
Biden's inauguration was very different from Trump's. For example, Biden kept reaching for Jill's hand and, get this, she didn't pull away.
At noon Eastern today, Joe Biden became the 46th president of the United States, a fact that was harder to believe for thousands of Americans than a secret cabal of Satan-worshipping cannibalistic pedophiles running a global child sex trafficking ring with the host of Celebrity Apprentice as the only person standing in their way.
Barack Obama and A-Rod fist bumped at the inauguration. They were probably celebrating their investment in Dominion voting machines paid off.
And finally, after President Biden and Vice President Harris's swearing-in ceremony, they received gifts from congressional leaders. Unfortunately, not a single one of them was able to offer a shred of pride or self-respect. And now it's Biden time. Welcome to our inauguration special. Very excited to be here with Tamra Brown.
Hey there.
And from his undisclosed bunker somewhere in America, the one, the only Scott Moore.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I'm confused. I think you're in a red state, but it's a little bit more purplish, isn't it?
It is. It's a little more purple. They have a Democratic governor, and so
a
little bit purple.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the big news. We will have to talk a little bit about what former President Trump has been to since our last show. But Tamra, did you?
Christian, I don't know if you're breaking up or if it's me, but I'm not catching what you're saying.
It could be me as well because I can't hear.
I think it's Christian. I think.
Uh-oh. It's probably me. Are you hearing me now, Tamra?
Yeah.
Does it? All right. You hear me all right now? Okay. I'll bring.
It's clear now.
Scott, I'll bring you back in a
and then you
second and give some of your reactions to the inauguration.
Okay. I loved it. It was so moving. I think my favorite part, and I am biased because of course I love Los Angeles so much, was LA's own poet laureate that spoke. She was the youngest poet laureate to ever perform at an inauguration. Amanda Gorman, I think is her last name. But yeah, she's from Los Angeles. That was a beautiful poem. I loved that. Biden's speech, I thought, he's very good at saying these words that feels unifying. He brings up that we're not, even if you disagree, that's fair and that's how democracy works. But we're all, in this country together, and he keeps saying he's going to work for those who voted, who didn't vote for him as much as he's going to work for those who did. So I thought his speech was great. Just the ceremony of it all. I thought it was funny it's just such a star with the star power, the Lady Gagas and the J-Los compared to who shows up for Trump stuff. It's just that part is hilarious. So those are my thoughts.
Well, there was the one crossover artist in Garth Brooks who could have, who has performed for both Democratic and Republican presidents. Scott, your thoughts on
star power?
The inauguration. Scott, what were your thoughts?
I was going to say the same thing pretty much as Tamra. It was so nice, like a breath of fresh air. It was wonderful. I thought Biden's speech was really good. I thought, just seeing Kamala Harris sworn in as VP, it kind of overwhelmed me. I was not really expecting to have those feelings when I saw her sworn in as the first minority woman. I mean, it was really just an incredible moment. And then kind of ticking down the clock to noon, knowing that Trump was no longer president, was also just this amazing feeling. It just felt like we were kind of having a new hope, a new beginning from some of the really worst parts of our political system and the bitter divisiveness. And of course, I'm not naive thinking that's suddenly going to go away, but it was nice to kind of see a more uplifting, positive speech, knowing that we have some struggles to go through. But unlike the speech that we heard from Trump 4 years ago, it felt completely different. And it was also very glaring to see Trump not there or any of his family there. And I thought that was again, a huge mistake on his part. And it continues to play into his, cult following, so to speak, of the small group of people that also don't believe that Biden won the election fair and square. To see him not there was really rather disgusting, really. He should have been there. I'm personally glad he wasn't, but just for the continuity of the transfer of power, it would have been nice to see that. But so that was a rather glaring thing too. And I thought, it was interesting to hear about the nuclear football and how they had to have two different ones because it never normally happens that way. And one that was down with Trump, and then that went away as of 11/59/59 and went over to the new nuclear football, which was with Biden. So it was just a really great overall, though, experience to see what happened today. And as Tamra said, great to have the youngest poet ever at Inauguration, only 22 years old, and for her to be LA native. I retweeted the LA Public Library this tweet this morning too, because it was really neat. So overall, it was a really great experience, and I think weaving it in with COVID, I thought they did a really good job with that as well. So I was very happy to see the way they still kept a lot of their traditions going too.
Tamra, would you think that it was striking in the way that it was largely so normal?
Yes. It was normal. It was free of gloating. I actually really enjoyed, Scott reminded me while naming, mentioning that Trump wasn't there, but seeing Pence there and seeing the camera shots of him while Biden was speaking, something about that gave me more respect for Pence. So that was really nice too. And I think that's something that Trump doesn't realize, that he's hurting himself in that he could have earned a lot more respect by showing up, because I felt it was really nice to see Pence there.
Yeah, and I really liked sort of the exchange between the Pences and the Harris family, basically saying goodbye on the steps, talking for a little bit and laughing. It was nice to see that, somebody from the outgoing administration was still able to be there as a grown-up and actually handle things. I mean, to do a way of comparison, you have President Biden's speech just before noon Eastern time, and then you have outgoing, now ex-president Trump's speech at the airstrip that I believe we have more people in the live chat for this show than they had to watch there.
Do we have any crossover, guys? Anybody in the chat? We're at their base this morning.
Yeah, Eric Trump is in the chat, so that's the one crossover that we have. But it is very striking on the same day, and Trump vowing that that he'll be back in some form, which I think
was mysterious.
Yeah,
I that felt to me like he's saying he's going to haunt the White House. It's like in some form.
Yeah, I think that some of some of those closets might have some, I don't know, Big Mac farts that'll never really go away, you know? So no, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the visualization and smellification thereof. So yeah, I think that, you know, it's important to talk about what was different about this inauguration. I think had the events of January 6th not happened, this still would have been a much smaller crowd. But how long do you think it will be before? And he has a job on either Newsmax or OAN. So do you think that Sean Spicer has pointed out that finally he's able to show pictures from Trump's inauguration and how there were so many more people than there were for this inauguration by design, partially because of the actions of the president? But you know, it sort of it added to the I don't want to call them non-believers, but the people who just continue to buy into the conspiracies that, well, yeah, they had to call the military in for this fraudulent election that they stole. And there were some great tweets going around because, as you can imagine, Scott, Q lost its damn mind today. And the Q is very disheartened. And the person who is in charge of basically the person that I think a lot of people think is the Q in QAnon actually said that they were going to well, his name's Ron Watkins, and he basically just said that it's time to move on. We have a new president sworn in, and it is our responsibility as citizens to respect the Constitution, regardless of whether or not we agree with the specifics or details regarding officials who are sworn in. So even QAnon has decided that it might be time to move on. But there's a lot of screenshots from people who monitor the chatter in those rooms. And there's a lot of like building up to this moment where they legitimately expected that everyone on the stage was about to be arrested for high crimes and misdemeanors. And that's why Trump was spirited away on Air Force One and he was secured. And then they very quickly realized, you know, there's a lot of questions of like, where the fuck is General Flynn? Is literally a screen grab that I saw. And then the best comment was in a thread that was called "Anyone Else Feeling Beyond Let Down Right Now?" This was after 12 Eastern. Somebody had the comment, "It's like being a kid and seeing a big gift under the tree and thinking it's exactly what you want, only to open it and realize it was a lump of coal the whole time." So even Q has to move on a little bit. I mean, I think that you have your militia groups, your more radicalized people are
I'm surprised QAnon followers are capable of that level of metaphor.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you know what? That was probably an actual instance of someone from Antifa pretending to be a Q supporter. That actually makes perfect sense. So, and then, you know, you have people who are legitimately, you know, worried for people in their family who really bought into all this. And they're like, I don't know if they're going to make it. You have to worry about you know, people might hurt themselves or do something, you know, much worse, something really destructive. And I think it would never have gone away, but even as recently as this morning, if former President Trump had said, "Yeah, well, I didn't really like the way it went, but I did lose," so you know, but he never referred to Biden by name. But as you'll notice, Biden never referred to Trump by name either. I'm just waiting for the right-leaning talking heads to talk about how undignified that was of President Biden to not mention President Trump. Now, of course, former President Trump. What do you think about all of this, Scott? The Q, the never really conceding at no time has he still has not conceded. He's not president anymore, but he still won as far as he's concerned.
Well, yeah, I was looking at all the different gifts and everything that were going out this morning too, because kind of to your point, there were some that were saying, oh, the reason why that Trump's not there is that he's planning to do what he needs to do to continue on as president. And he, you know, it was very fascinating to sort of see what was going in their mindsets. But yeah, I think it's like very inappropriate what Trump did. It's just a childlike, whiny loser mentality to just, dip off in the morning and disappear and not be able to deal with the fact that regardless of what he thinks or whatever, he still deep down believes that he won, to realize that it's over and that he was not there to be a part of the transfer of power. And that was the one thing I will give credit to former Vice President Pence, is the fact that he took on the leadership role over really these last couple weeks, because Trump was really just completely absent after he got off social media. You just didn't see him except for those sort of hostage videos where he felt like he was being forced to say things like his farewell address. And I was thinking, comparing his farewell address the other day compared to Obama's 4 years ago, I mean, just completely different again, too. So Pence was there working with the Capitol Police, and he was there working to help with the transfer of power, and being there to represent the administration this morning, which again, it had to be difficult for him too. It's one thing when you're finishing your second term of office and you're okay, I'm bittersweet, but your time is up. It's another thing to lose your reelection and then still have to show face there. And imagine how hard it was for Hillary Clinton even in 2016, even though she wasn't the president that lost or vice president that lost. It's still incredibly difficult, and it was a very close and bitter election to have to go and show face there. And yet she did it in 2016, and you didn't have Trump do that. So as I said, I do give Pence credit, because it is difficult when you've lost a hard race and you have to show face there and watch someone else basically take your job right in front of your face. It's just a very odd, not normal situation. You're not normally at your job when someone else comes in and takes it over for you after you're fired. So it's, I do give him credit. And I think that at least helped with at least showing that peaceful transfer of power. But I think it was wrong on Trump, and it's going to look again badly on him. I mean, taking everything out, if you took everything out, that's going to look bad on him. Just that moment of not showing up is just that little final cherry on top of showing that he was just not the appropriate person at all for this job at any point.
Yeah, I mean, you can fault policy and actions by Mike Pence, but I would say that the way that he handled himself in the month of January as a whole is an indication of somebody who you get the feeling that he really cares about this country more than he cares about himself, which is not the feeling you get from the previous occupant of the White House. Tamra, there are reports that former President Trump did leave a note to Joe Biden. I wonder if we'll ever see it. What do you think might be in that note, Tamra?
Oh boy. Let's see. It's probably just like those fortune telling things where you scratch out the letters that repeat in your own name, and then you say
Right.
a mansion to, I don't know, just oh God, I can't even think of what could possibly be in that note.
Do you think it was written on a piece of paper or possibly on something else that he had laying around?
Like a Big Mac wrapper?
Most likely, yeah.
Scratchers tickets. Yeah, I mean, remember when Trump was taking office and there were all those memes of Uncle Joe leaving like pranks around the White House for Trump? I almost wish that those were back, but the reverse, because I would
Right.
love to see either way, whether they were being made by supporters of Trump making fun of Biden, or whether they were being made by supporters of Biden. I would like to see that sort of thing. And it's funny how quickly those memes were forgotten through Biden's whole campaign. But what was in the note? Good Lord. Who knows? Nothing of consequence, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just a blank piece of paper, and just so that, Biden could be like, oh, that's nice. He left me. Oh, God damn it. He got me.
One of those infinity symbols.
Yeah. Or it's the way that you can leave like an instant message, you can direct message someone on Instagram, but then it goes away. It's like it's like in disappearing ink. You got to read it once. There's obviously some very different opinions out there in the country right now, as evidenced by our chat. This, of course, from Sweden, our friend Andreas Froby. Hello from Sweden. Feel I can breathe lighter now. And then Storage Yard Resident, our friend who's been with us from the very beginning. I am here biding my time since the Republic came to an end today, 1776 to 2021. So I think that means that he's excited for the executive orders that President Biden's going to sign this afternoon. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you want to critique what President Biden had to say, obviously everyone is welcome to. They're trying to say that the way that he's discounting the 74 million people who voted for former President Trump. And I don't know, Scott, I found this speech to be, very, very much one of unity and planning to work together. And I don't know. I mean, I think that, look, people are going to find divisiveness wherever they want to find it. But in terms of that aspect of the speech, it seems like Biden is very cognizant of the fact that you're leading almost half as many, you're leading a very similar number of people who actively did not vote for you.
Correct. And it just had more of a throwback to a more traditional president, of just let's work together, from previous presidents saying, hey, I'm the president for everyone that voted for me. And we never, voted for me or not voted for me. And he specifically said that. And we never had that from Trump. All Trump cared about was his base, that group of people, which I've said from the beginning, and it proved to be true, that if you continue to target that base, it was going to be very hard to win re-election because he won by such a straight pass there with those just 77,000 votes in those 3 states in the upper Midwest. And if he did not try to expand that base, it was not going to be able to be enough to pull out a victory in 2020. And he never did. And in fact, he lost a lot of Republicans that might have voted for him in 2016 because he was expressing something different. So the fact that he never helped to expand that and never really tried, even at his inaugural speech 4 years ago, and we're just seeing more of a throwback to a traditional president, a president who came up through more of the traditional routes of being in government for many years, being a former VP, which, 7 previous VPs have gone on to be president. So kind of more of like, you would say, the traditional route to be a president, went through that feeder school of local office and Senate and VP to reach the highest office of the land, unlike Donald Trump, who had no experience in government whatsoever. So it was definitely, that's what I'm saying. It was that breath of fresh air. It was like, we're all working together now. Sure, some people are saying, he was still being somewhat, all or nothing. And other people were saying, oh, he's naive to think we're going to be able to work together after the divisiveness. I think he realizes after being VP under Obama just how difficult it was to get things done. But I think he's really trying to turn that page and say, we do have bigger problems. And if we work together, it'll be easier to solve them than split up. Will he have a honeymoon period? Perhaps, but not like previous presidents. And he has such a razor thin majority to work with in the House and the Senate that it's not going to be like previous presidents like Obama, who had over 60 senators and, had a wider House majority to work with. So there are definitely be challenges. And that's why he really does have to try to work with the opposing party to try to see. But the problem is the opposing party with Republicans are going to have their own challenges to see if they're going to split off, like we talked about last week. Is it going to be like a 1912 type scenario where, a faction splits off with Trump and it's like a new bull moose party and their own party, and then you have the Republicans of the traditional sense to try to have their own party as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Republicans move through this now that they are in the minority in federal government, and how they're going to move forward as well, and how they choose to work with the Biden administration and the rest of government.
Tamra, yesterday, former President Trump talked about forming the Patriot Party, and we have our friend Roz JD in the chat is very excited about that. And I think that it's all well and good to want to start your own political party, but there's a reason why, Scott's referencing the Bull Moose Party. It's been a while since one has effectively done it. I mean, if anybody was going to do it, you had Ross Perot, who got 19% of the popular vote. And if that didn't lead to the launch of and look, there are plenty of other parties, but we're talking about a viable, real third party where, Ross Perot got to participate in debates, so, I mean, there hasn't been anything like that. And what do you think that these efforts look like? Do you think, like I do, that Donald Trump has actually lost all interest in all of this in just the 3 hours that he hasn't been president? And by tomorrow morning, he might not remember he ever was president.
Well, I think, first of all, I think his number one goal is to figure out where, he's in some financial trouble right now. So if his number one lender has cut him off, he's lost a couple of contracts that he had down the pipeline. So he's got to figure out, is he going to get some sort of show on Fox News or Newsmax? Doesn't, even though that they don't seem like they have much of a budget. But he's got to figure out where a stream of income is going to come from. First of all, as far as starting his own party. Has it been named the Patriot Party? Because I would hope to.
He said he wants it to be the Patriot Party, but it's a working title.
Yeah. I hope it's a working title because I would like some more. I think we can do better than that, Trumpy. I think we can come up with something a little bit better.
There also might be litigation from Robert Kraft, who, of course, owns the New England Patriots. So he might not be so quick. Although he's a Trump guy, so maybe he'd be like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead. You could use the helmet if you want."
But as far as starting your own party, please do it because it's a recipe for disaster. Unless I think it would be smart rather than starting your own party. I mean. Put forth some momentum to change. We'd have to change our voting process in order to actually give a third party any real sort of contention, where there would be like some sort of national runoff, or where it's, what is it called when it's the measured voting, ranked voting, something like that would be a lot more, would give a lot more potential to any sort of comeback in politics for him. So yeah, you know what? If you're going to form a third party, go for it, because it's his MO. He's only hurting himself.
Yeah, and I think
that is.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that is if he can even run, depending on what happens with the impeachment
right.
trial as well. So
and there's that.
That.
Well, and that sort of speaks to something that Tamra mentioned. So he's not president anymore, and that means he's open to numerous litigation. A lot of is, I know the New York District Attorney was really just waiting for today, and surprised that they weren't there, on the tarmac in Palm Beach, just waiting to, serve the president, the former president, directly. So he's got a lot of that legal trouble coming up, and there is there at some point the Senate will take up the issue of the impeachment hearing, and I think that there was some rumbling over the weekend that Rudy Giuliani would represent him in the Senate hearing, and I think that. 81 million Biden voters and half of the Senate, and what is it, 222 House members were like, "Oh yes, please have Rudy Giuliani represent you in the Senate trial, dealing with the impeachment." And I think that it is probably smart to not dive right into it as much as there's the temptation to do that. It's really going to sideline everything that President Biden tries to accomplish. So there's this idea of waiting the first 100 days. I think that his finances are very limited at this point, and there's a lot of legal fees he has to pay for. So I think that he's not really going to go away because he's going to be in court so much. But now that he pardoned Judge Jeanine Pirro's husband, with less than an hour before his term as president was over. That was a little bit of a last-minute extra one. I think that he at least maybe Judge Janine will represent him. I'm not really sure where it goes. But speaking of the pardons, I kind of wanted to look back at some of the pardons. I think the most notable, well, I guess, Tamra, let's start with the most notable in terms of not being pardoned. People thought we might get pardons for Julian Assange or Edward Snowden, but probably most disappointed in all of this, Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, who I believe felt like he was on a fast track to being pardoned, but in fact wasn't. What did you think about the pardons?
You know what? I'm Googling it right now because I'm not as familiar as I should be with who got the pardons and who didn't. But I know Trump didn't pardon. He wasn't successful in pardoning himself.
Well, he was given the advice from counsel to not do that because when you pardon someone, you have to say what they're being pardoned for. So you'd have to list all of the possibly pardonable offenses for the Trump family. I mean, there was talk of him, pardoning all of his children, even Tiffany.
He pardoned Bannon.
Yeah, that's who I wanted to start with. Is he did pardon Steve Bannon, which honestly seemed very unlikely, at least a year ago and maybe even a few months ago. So he pardoned the guy who defrauded his supporters, Trump supporters, to the tune of millions of dollars for supporting a border wall, and then he did not use the money for that. So that seems like a pardonable offense if you're ex-President Trump, right, Tamra?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, and I did know that he pardoned Lil Wayne. That was very important.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, that was important. Yeah.
Glad.
Yeah, but not Lil Twist.
On that.
Although I don't think Lil Twist needed a pardon.
Godspeed. He didn't want to admit guilt, I guess, for any crimes.
But the Bannon pardon is what I wanted to focus on. What that says. I mean, I had the joke up top about lobbyists, and I think we blipped out for a second there, but it looks like we're back. So yeah, just talk about Bannon.
I don't understand why would he? I mean, well, okay, I guess he does want to clear Bannon, but at this point, what? I don't understand why, I guess, because what I still see Trump as every single thing that he does is transactional. So to that end, it doesn't make sense to me why he would need Bannon for anything at this point moving forward. I guess just so that Breitbart or whatever is not painting him in a negative light. But other than that, I'm not really sure why that one was done.
Well, before we focus more on the positive, I want to bring our friend Drexel Hurd in here. Drexel, first of all, welcome to a day that for a lot of people, you and I were trading messages yesterday. It's sort of like Christmas morning if the 4 previous Christmases were all spent with the Grinch in charge. So we were in the middle of talking about the Steve Bannon pardon, which I don't think any of us are capable of being shocked by anything before. But if you had to think, why is it politically expedient for former President Trump to have pardoned Steve Bannon?
Well, I'm sure Steve Bannon knows quite a bit. And he's always been a really good partner to Donald Trump in whatever scheme they're cooking up next. So if he's unavailable, aka in jail somewhere, he's not going to be available to do any more of the super Karl Rove-esque conniving that the former president's going to be trying to do since when the spotlight's no longer on him, as people have already forgotten about him so far.
Yeah, I think that it makes the most sense that he's more valuable to former President Trump out of jail than in jail. So, Drexel, just overall thoughts on the day. We spent the first part of the show talking about some of the highlights, and just wanted to give you a few minutes. We appreciate you taking some time to chat with us. Just give us some of your thoughts as you were watching and as we've had a few hours to reflect on it.
Well, it's still going. Joe Biden right now is headed to the president's headed to the. It's really weird to say the president's headed to the White House because we haven't said the president in a positive way for 4 years. So it was a really good morning so far. I'm very excited about what we're going to see a little bit later in the virtual parade, and then of course the nighttime stuff. But for an overall inaugural for us attempting to get back to some normalcy, that's what we. I think the inaugural committee did a really good. As a person who has planned quite a few events in my life, that was a really good use of the time that we're in. It was perfect for the moment that we're in terms of where people are, how people are feeling. There's on one hand, people want that celebration side of it, but on the other hand, people want to be able to be heard and recognize that there are a lot of families that are still struggling. And I think that you got that from Joe Biden's speech. Not only in that, in the first time that we've ever, had a moment of silence in an inaugural address, and just the acknowledgement that there are things that are still going on around the nation, and that we're not out of the clear yet just because Donald Trump is gone. I think I actually teared up when Kamala was when the vice president was being sworn in, and not for anything other than the fact that she's from California. And B, she's a Black woman in America. So I think those two, and she's a woman in America. Those three huge things are historic, as I'm sure everybody knows. But certainly for a lot of Black families across the country to see her take that oath of office very swiftly from Justice Sotomayor was very exciting to see. And she was in that designer outfit from an African American designer, and she looked amazing. Nobody will ever top Michelle Obama. I don't care who says the outfits of the day. The outfits of the decade will always go to Michelle Obama. But I think overall, Joe Biden's speech was incredible. It was exactly what we needed. It was straight to the point. It was swift. It wasn't Obama-esque. It was Joe Biden-esque. And so that was exciting to see. And so he's going to hit the ground running here in a little bit. He's got like 15 executive orders that he's going to be signing here, in the next couple of hours or so before they hit their celebrations tonight. Focused on immigration reform and rolling back some of our sanctions in places where the Trump administration has bungled our foreign policy. So we're excited to see what the president gets done today.
I would just like to push back a little bit and say I do believe that the second gentleman will give Michelle Obama a run for her money outfit wise.
He was in Ralph Lauren today, so yes, he does. He will. He was in a custom Ralph Lauren outfit today, so he definitely stepping it up in the role of the second gentleman. And of course, Joe Biden, is going to be a great first lady, and certainly, her focus on military families. And I'm very excited to see what Doug is going to do as second gentleman for his focus.
And there's something to be said for being the second gentleman, and perhaps the first of many. We'll see. If Mayor Pete's ever vice president, there'll be a second gentleman. So, Scott, in terms of obviously, Drexel referenced all of the executive orders. There's of course no shortage of work to be done, especially in terms of how divided the country can be and is. But the most striking thing over every glance you took at anything during this, it's just a reminder of the pandemic, because you had everyone with masks on except for when they were speaking, and the reduced crowd, some of the events that they're not holding, like the lunch, and some of the other a lot of the virtual events that are happening this year. How do you think that President Biden is able to shift the focus to, look, you can say other things are more important, but I think it starts with the pandemic, addressing it, and an effective vaccine rollout, which we have not had to this point. How do you think, I mean, they should really be focused on that tomorrow morning, right when they get up, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because he said he wanted to get 100 million doses out there in the first 100 days. That is going to be their first priority, obviously, because once we get the pandemic under control, then you get the economy under control as well. And he will be judged on that fairly or unfairly, because now a lot of the reason why he's in office now and he helped and he defeated Trump was because there was really no organization from Trump. So it is going to be incumbent on him to really be a leader and ramp up this process, which I think 100 million doses in 100 days is very reasonable. So I believe it will be successful, and they realize the importance of this as opposed to Trump on what they need to do, and they are taking science to a whole new level. They're basically making science a cabinet level position now. They are taking that very seriously, and so beyond just the pandemic, just believing in science for climate change and other things is going to have a much greater priority for this administration and for this country now going forward, which is going to be very helpful as we move beyond the pandemic and into the next phase of things, which he and this administration have said are clearly important. So absolutely, you have to take those prongs at one at a time, get the pandemic under control, which then will lead with the economy. And then he has to work with the racial injustice too, which is the third thing beyond climate change. Those are really the four main things that they're going to really need to be focusing on over the next, this next year.
Yeah, I think to Scott's point about the vaccine rollout, I think this will show the fundamental difference in philosophy between Democrats and Republicans, just solely in the fact that the Trump administration, and certainly Republicans, their view on individual states' rights and doing their own thing, it has not worked. The federal government, on some level, has to be able to assist states. And the Trump administration basically said, you know what? States can handle their own thing. And what states and governors have been complaining about is they didn't have the resources that the federal government had to be able to effectively roll out. Here in California, Gavin Newsom is trying very hard to do what he can with a state that pretty much is bigger than every other state in the union. And so in terms of population, so we have a lot more folks to vaccinate here, and California can't do it alone. So having the federal government and certainly the Biden administration understand the necessity of the federal government is going to be what will be different in terms of how fast this rollout can happen. But logistics are tough, and it's going to take every governor. It's kind of like the rollout of the Affordable Care Act. You're going to have your states and certainly your Republican governors who are in a majority right now, who are going to say, well, maybe we don't need as much help from the federal government, and we'll see how well that works out for them. And if not, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I'm sure, are going to come in and say, we'll do whatever we have to do to help your state out.
And we need the problems that California is having with the vaccine rollout right now, which is they threw batches of vaccines away because they were going to expire because of the people that were a certain percentage of healthcare workers chose not to receive it, so they had to throw away batches of vaccines. And this is just poor mismanagement, rather than figuring out a way to open it up to the next people in line who would be like, well, then I'll take them. Anyway, so things like that is what the logistics, like Jeffrey said, is so complicated that we need to figure out this. If it's just solely left up to the states, then the Biden administration will be blamed for the holes in the distribution process, just like we've seen with California.
Yeah, I mean, I was already seeing, in the last few months, the comments from people on the right about that President Trump gave us a vaccine, but the Democrats are ruining its distribution, which you can point to some instances where, you know, it could have been handled more smoothly. I think that I think that that's going to continue if the governors don't take it upon themselves to, you know, and if they need the help, to certainly ask for it. I
do want to point out, you know, a couple of governors had already pointed out that the Trump administration had promised the overstock into their states, only to come to realize that they were told by the Operation Warp Speed, the now disbanded Operation Warp Speed, that was a lie. That the Trump administration actually didn't have the stockpiles of vaccines that they were promised, and that they would not be getting them. So, you know, these are the things that the Trump administration has, you know, failed to do. You know, we certainly will, I'm sure, talk more harshly about the Trump administration than we did the Bush administration. You know, I'll certainly do my best to not mention Donald Trump as much as possible from here on out. But you know, at the end of the day, the reality is that the Trump administration bungled this, and as always, like the economy, like foreign policy, Democrats have always come in to clean up Republicans' mess, and that's exactly what I think you're going to see from Joe and Kamala. By the way, Joe Biden,
to the point that Tamra was making earlier. Yeah. Oh, yes. So are you trying to point out that work is about to actually be done at the White House for perhaps the first time in quite a while? So he's going to have a very busy schedule, take a lot of meetings, and make a lot of calls. Is that what a president does when they're there? Okay. But Tamra, to your point earlier about distributing the vaccine, you know, you're hearing about, I was reading a story specifically, it was in the Washington, D.C. area, where people have started lining up in grocery stores that have pharmacies, because at the end of the day, they have some that are left over. They're supposed to only be for, you know, medical professionals, you know, first responders, those sort of things. And they have to throw them away at the end of the day. So they'll just give them to people that are in the store at the time. And I think that, if you can create a standby list for like concert tickets or to go to a TV taping, there should be a list of like, hey, you know, at like 8 o'clock, I might give you a call so you can come and get this. And the people on that list, of course, shouldn't be the four of us. Not that we don't deserve to be vaccinated, but it should be, you know, that next tier, you know, whatever it is, people over 70, you know, people whose appointment is maybe like 3 months away. And I think it's messy to be able to navigate, but do you see a fix that there could be to just get these doses injected in people's arms, Tamra?
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility I've heard tossed around, is just some sort. What's the best method for having a standby list? You know, even if I think somebody jokingly yesterday was like, can the Dodger Stadium vaccination be like tweet out? Actually, I mean, I think the wait for that one is quite significant. So I don't know if that's one of them. But anyway, yeah. But you know, basic any whenever we have any sort of leftover vaccines, can they just send out a tweet that's just like, come here, whoever, you know, first in line, first come, first serve. Just any sort of stand. I know I certainly will. If somebody doesn't want their vaccine, I'll take it. I'll say that right now on record.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to jump a few people in line. Look, if nobody's taken it, I will. And my in-laws, my wife's parents, they live down in Orange County, and they got it at Disneyland over the weekend. So that I guess is maybe the new e-ticket is the if you qualify, you can actually get a vaccine at Disneyland. Yeah, exactly. You need a pass.
I do think that, you know, Los Angeles has one thing. If people are choosing not to get this vaccine, I do think it would be smart of this city to offer some sort of like, meet the Dodgers when you come get your vaccine, or, you know, get to walk down Main Street USA if you get your vaccine at Disneyland. Like, put some sort of incentive that, you know, will get some people out there.
I think the only logistical problem that, you know, that of course comes with incentivizing, especially people who are desperate, is that it could get it's chaotic, and the moment that things are promised, the more chaotic things get. I mean, you're talking about Dodger Stadium that was testing 13 to 15,000 people a day. Could you imagine what it's like when you get desperation out there for people hoping for a vaccine, or at least waiting in line to get a vaccine? I mean, the I-5 alone would be backed up, and so I think it's got to be done to where people remain safe, and to where people can, are not going to be waiting until they, catch COVID again for a vaccine, still just waiting in line.
Just showing his inside knowledge here, Ross JD points out a fast pass for Club 33 members only. You have to be a Mason. Yes, if you're a Club 33 member, you get
already got their vaccines.
Yeah, you get that's from Walt's secret stash. You have vaccines to things we haven't even heard about. You got a bird flu vaccine, a swine, whatever you need. Club 33, you'll get it. Scott, I know you need to run in a few minutes because Scott is actually busy working, which it looks like. But in terms of, obviously the vaccine was the starting point, and you don't have to rank them in any sort of order. What do you think should be some of the sort of the next notch down in what to focus on beyond the distribution of the vaccine?
Well, clearly the economy, because so many people have been hurt by that. So, as we talked about earlier, as soon as you can get a kind of a handle on COVID and the vaccines, which is going to be a huge logistical thing in itself, that's going to take a lot of the federal government's time and energy to deal with, but obviously the economy, and from there, the massive inequality that we've had, again, a lot from these Republican policies that have continued to help the people at the top instead of everybody. So that will be part of that as well, and some of the racial injustice that we've seen, and also focusing on, again, with the science, focusing on climate change and the other issues that we see continually across the country. I mean, in California alone, we're seeing fires break out in places that have never broken out in January before. And, we're seeing this climate change happen now in real time, where before it just felt like something off in the distance that people didn't have to worry about, but we are seeing it happen now. So that is also going to be a clear priority for this administration. And it's great to be able to have an administration that's going to work with California, on the waivers for the vehicle emissions and different things like that, which not working against California and some of the governments, but working with them is going to be very helpful, because as Tamra and Drexel alluded to earlier, talking about California and just with its COVID strategies, I mean, it's bigger than most countries around the world as far as its population and its economy. So that in itself is going to be a really great thing to be able to work with. And having our vice president be from California will also be able to give a little bit more attention to us that have not had it over the past 4 years. So yes, key is COVID vaccines, followed by the economy and inequality, racial injustice, and climate change will be sort of the four prongs they need to focus on, pretty much in that order.
And Drexel also being kind to give us a few minutes of his time. There's the list that Scott just ticked off. What is something that, and our friend Chelsea Galicia, who is always far too busy to be with us, obviously her answer would be trying to get money out of politics, and she would say it 3 or 4 times if I gave her the opportunity to list 3 or 4. And look, a lot of stuff stems from that. Some of those pardons that were announced yesterday were people with a lot of money. So, but apart from those, what's something that maybe everyone isn't thinking of as one of the first things? What do you think is very important for the Biden administration to focus on, ideally in the first 100 days, but certainly somewhere in this first year? Oh, yeah, Drexel's on mute, though. Yeah. I think he's still on mute.
Sorry.
You are. That's all right.
I was like, is that for me?
Yeah.
I think that Equality Act is certainly on the docket that the Biden administration can get done pretty quickly. The ratification, or the final act of solidifying the ERA can certainly happen. within these first 100 days. Obviously, the Biden administration is going to be focused on immigration and making sure that not only are the borders secure, but also that we have, like the president has said, that 8-year pathway to citizenship that they're working on. I know that John Kerry is going to be working on climate change, so those things we'll see change. The rollback of regulations that the Trump administration did, I'm sure will be put back into place under this administration over the next month or so. I mean, there's just a whole host of issues that we never got to under the Trump administration, or that were just kind of sidelined. Obviously, philosophically too, and fundamentally. So I think that that the world is President Biden's oyster right now. He could literally do anything. Joe Biden could do the bare minimum, and it still would be more than what Donald Trump did in 4 years. So it literally could be anything. We'd be like, wow, he did a lot, because there's been nothing that's been happening. So we could literally say, yeah, Joe Biden really got a lot done in these 100 days, and we'd be like, wow, yeah.
There was a noticeable excitement on CNN as they were pointing out that there's going to be a press briefing today, something that does not happen very often and certainly hadn't happened lately. Tamra, in our final moment here, in terms of sort of big picture things to focus on, it can certainly be any of the things that we're talking about, but even if it's not a specific policy item, what do you think should be, if your first day on the Biden administration was tomorrow, and who knows, maybe it will be, and they asked for, a couple of ideas, what do you think should be at the forefront of everybody's mind in the new White House?
Well, he's already mentioned, but I reunite families that have been separated at the border, the children that have been they can't seem to locate their parents, stop the Keystone XL pipeline, rescind the Muslim ban, rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, and if I can just a personal preference, just protect TikTok. We can't lose TikTok.
Well, you might be in luck, because I think China has
yes,
has
very important to TikTok.
I think there's a delay.
Yeah. So you were saying that China has censored TikTok of a delay throughout. I'm using the Wi-Fi instead of the hardwire, which had been serving us so well lately. Yes.
I was saying China has.
But protecting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Drexel's making the point about TikTok and China, and I think that that should obviously that should be job one, is preservation of TikTok. And Tamra, if people want to follow you on TikTok, where do they do that?
Hey, Tamra.
And Scott, if people want to see you getting into it with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell,
right here,
right there, yeah,
S-Man 8.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Drexel, we appreciate your time at Drexel Hurd. I guess that's the one-stop shopping. They can just find you there on Twitter, right, Drexel?
Everywhere. On Twitter, Instagram, yeah, TikTok.
And if you want, to talk politics with Drexel, or if you want to talk about Star Trek Discovery, or even Jesus Christ Superstar, you will find a taker and all of those things.
I am your guy.
And Scott is going to need to connect with you for some recommendations for North Carolina.
That's right.
Go Pack.
Yep.
So some great places to eat. Tamra, Drexel. You can always find me on Twitter, Instagram at ChristianDMZ. We'll be back next week. I don't know what day. I don't know what time. So follow the show at Biden Time TV, and we will let you know when you can find us. But until then, thanks, America.
Bye. Happy inauguration.